do you help them to get more because they're not desperate today?
They set them up for failure, maybe without intent.
What would you identify as the biggest problem with the cash management for the contractor?
I think that there's a major agenda for the insurance companies to starve these contractors. 90% of our clients double their business within a year, if not triple it.
Today we're in sunny Florida bringing you a very special guest. His name is Carlos. He's the founder of ClaimPay, service that contractors need to help them pay faster by insurance companies. Roofing Insights, highly endorsed ClaimPay. Enjoy this interview to understand why.
So just look at you at all times, right?
Yeah.
Like we're having a conversation. Yep.
Okay, we're ready?
Today we're in beautiful Orlando, Florida again, sitting with the sea. He can speak English. I can't speak today.
That's the whole funny part of the interview.
Today we're in beautiful Orlando, Florida again, sitting with a serial entrepreneur. Carlos, thank you so much for coming from Miami. Nice to see you, brother.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Carlos, we have very unique service and very needed service for the contractors. I love contractors and what we do, but we do deal with the third parties and getting paid is very hard. My first question is that I want to know, why do you fly to your clients? Something I have not seen in this industry to the scale that you have done. Because we have Zoom, we have options, but you choose to do face-to-face old school business. Why is that?
Because of that, because I'm an old school guy.
Okay.
We want to, talk to our clients, we want to touch them, feel them, look at them in the eye, know who we're dealing with. We're dealing with money, very sensitive matter. We have investors, we're a fund, and we're fiduciaries to our investors, and we owe them a responsibility. So we need to know who we're working with, and the best way to get to know someone is looking at them in the eye. So we want to actually meet every single one of our clients, and we'll go wherever they are.
So can you scale it? If you have 500 clients, are you going to be able to do that?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and the answer to that would probably be no. I might not be able to go to every single client myself, but we obviously have a team of people. But I will tell you, I will try my hardest at meeting every single one. And even if I don't meet them in the beginning, I'm definitely going to be meeting them soon thereafter, or soon after we start doing business with them.
What do you look, when you meet someone, what are you looking at? Are you looking strictly at the books, how organized they are? Are you looking at the character?
Yeah.
What are red flags?
Yeah, well, so on the positive side, yeah, we're looking at their historicals. We want to know that these are folks that have been in the business for long enough, that they have experience doing what they're doing, that they're not fly by night, obviously. Nothing wrong with being a new contractor doing some sort of specialty. And maybe you came from 10 years of managing some other company. So we're fine with that, but that gives us an idea of who they are, where they come from, because that's always important. When it comes to red flags, if you want to call that, of course we do due diligence to know who we're dealing with. We go through a due diligence process. We don't really look at folks and contractors or business owners to see if they have a 700, 800 credit score. We don't really pull credit scores from anybody, but we do background checks on folks. We want to make sure that we're dealing with good people, good contractors, folks that don't have a criminal background, especially one that will be financial in nature. So obviously, if we have somebody that's had any kind of felony, one thing is to have a DUI. Things happen, and if that were to happen, we probably wouldn't have any issue doing business with somebody like that, unless they're recurring and they have an issue. But we're looking more than anything at just making sure that the companies that we work with are serious players, large, small, medium, but that are just good people.
The idea is not new. I knew of few companies in a similar space. Describe your business model and explain how are you different from other similar companies in the market.
Yeah, so I don't really know much about other let's call them competitors. I'm not really sure that we have any competitors. What we do in a certain way, some people would think it's legal funding. I don't think that it quite is. Some other people call it pre-settlement funding. That I don't call that our industry that either, because that mostly has to do with claims from parties that have been involved in accidents or torts, things of that nature. I can't identify a specific competitor of ours. I don't think anybody does what we do the way that we do it. I do know of one company out there. I think there's one company out there that tried. I'm not sure if they're still in business, and they gave an advance of funds to a roofer, let's call it, based on their invoice. But once the insurance company had already accepted coverage and had basically told them, okay, we're going to send you the ACV check, and then of course, you're taking zero risk there. It would be very simple to do that. We don't do it that way. Our business is completely different. We do what we do with the advances of cash to the roofers, let's say, or the contractors, way earlier in the game, before liability has been established or coverage has been established.
But you do essentially offer a loan for work that's already been done.
Yeah. So but to be clear, what we do is not a loan. We don't lend money. There's no monthly payment. There's no interest, right? When you borrow money, you have to pay money every month. You have to pay an interest over it, and there's a set term of time upon which you have to pay and extinguish the debt. What we do is not a loan. We do factoring is the more common term used in the industry, in the finance industry. So we give an advance of cash for a set fee that doesn't change whether it's 1 month or 3 years, and without recourse. So if it collects, it collects. If it doesn't collect, it doesn't collect. Kind of like contractors when they do work for a homeowner here in Florida, which is where we're at, and where we do most of our business as we expand into the future into other states. You cannot have recourse. If you take an assignment of benefits, you're doing it at your own risk as a contractor. And if the insurance company, for some reason, is excused from paying it, the contractor,
You own it.
eats it, basically. Speaking in normal terms.
I want to talk about bad loans, not your product, but I'm really curious about your opinion. I see it's trending. A lot of contractors are struggling with cash flow and ended up getting very bad ACH, daily transactions. That industry is booming, and I'm getting a lot of calls myself from the contractors who don't know what to do. Close the doors. Why is it happening? What do you see when you work with the contractors? How do contractors get in that position where they're hostage to the situation to take really bad loan? Is it lack of financial education? Is it third parties like insurance, all of the above?
Yeah. So I think we've faced that situation with, I would say, just a handful of contractors. So we have been exposed to it, and we have, with our funding, we have made it a requirement to pay off that. So part of the funds that we provide would pay off those lines of credit, let's call it. They're very toxic in nature. They're, I don't want to say that they're doing them in a way to set them up for failure with an intent.
But it seems like it.
But they set them up for failure, maybe without intent. I think that those companies have a product that in other industries work very well. Like if you're doing that kind of a line of credit advance for a restaurant, let's call it, like here, this pool restaurant, and they're giving an advance on their credit card receivables, things like that. But in the contractor world, in the roofing world, it's not suitable to it. It's not going to work. Sooner or later, a lot sooner than later, that contractor is going to be failing for sure. We like to call it in the finance industry and space that if you give enough rope to a contractor to hang themselves, they will. And that's basically what ends up happening with those kinds of facilities.
How do they usually arrive there? Is it big overhead, overspending, or just not looking at the numbers?
No, I think it really has nothing to do with what the contractor is doing. It's the product, the financial product that is being offered to them is just not suited to the industry that they're in. So they're taking on maybe more that they can afford without realizing it at all. They just really, bottom line is that they don't realize it because the people that are lending this product or offering this product are just, sales. More they sell to these contractors, the more money they make individually, as opposed to, analyzing what are the needs of the contractor and see what's the best product and what's going to work for them. How much money do they really need to stay afloat, take on more jobs, grow, and then take a paycheck, right?
How do you approach a contractor, or what your advice would be, or course of action if someone comes to you? My understanding is they're probably already in a financial hole of some kind.
Yes.
Big receivables, not enough operation cash.
Yes.
So you see the business is in trouble. You're the financial guy. How do you help them to get out? Because if you just give them money to, receivables, it doesn't always fix the problem. Do you help them to fix their, financial stability situation? Like, how do you work with them?
Sure.
Isn't it a red flag for you that they even already there?
You would think that it would be a red flag, but it's the nature of the beast. It's really not that the contractor is doing anything wrong. To me, a larger receivable, we call it the back book, which is their aging AR or accounts receivables, is actually an indication of success. They're just not successful because the speed of the collection based on their receivable is extremely slow. So they are receivable rich and cash poor. But if they can accelerate that cash, they would be very successful. So they're not really doing anything wrong. It's just that because the insurance companies are extremely slow to pay, and it becomes sort of a war of attrition, the contractor falls victim to that. So they want to keep, I think the insurance companies ultimately want to keep the contractors in a cycle where they're starved for cash, right? The more they delay, in a state like Florida where there's no, I don't want to say that there's no penalty for the delays, but there almost is no penalty for a delay. So they have to pay for attorney's fees.
Do you see it as a pattern? Do you see a real problem with it? Do you believe it's insurance company strategy?
Yeah, so I've been a lawyer for about 25 years. I started my career as a litigator, litigating first-party claims. And I mean, I believed it back then. Fast forward a lot more years, I believe it 100%. Yeah, I think that there's a major agenda for the insurance companies to starve these contractors, because if they give them money, then they can do more of the good work that they do, and which goes directly against their interest. Is it okay if we push out of the light a little bit, or it's just a little hot?
My next question is about leverage in contracting business, working with insurance companies. Oftentimes we're hostage to our receivables and we start making very bad decisions, and insurance start having leverage. So it's who has the ball. Does your service, does ClaimPay, help with that situation? Because oftentimes insurance companies pay us less because it's take this now, or in Russia we have a saying, it's better to have a small bird in your hand than a big bird in the sky.
Yep.
So that's what insurance companies do. And they say, well, you can take $60,000 right now without overhead and profit, or you can keep fighting. And contractors knows he can get it extra $20K, but he has to fight for it. If you are funding me my future receivables, if I show you, hey, I have a $60,000 at first, are you funding current invoice, or what I'm trying to get, or how do you fund that situation? But also, do you help them to get more because they're not desperate today? 100%.
So, great question. To answer this question and part of the previous one that we left off, or that you started with, which is, do we just give him money and does that solve the problem, right? So we are not financial advisors. We are a finance company. We want to help our clients with our funding, right? So one of the things that we do is, if they have a large receivable, which to be honest with you, 9 out of 10 have a lot more than they can afford and that they would want to have as a receivable. We fund them on that. We call it the back book or their aging AR. We fund them with that. We don't control what they do with that money, right? The smart ones, and truthfully, invariably, we've seen that our clients will actually take that money and invest it right back into the business because they see what we offer and they look at it as an opportunity to finally now start growing their business, right? Because the biggest limitation that they have is because they don't have cash flow, every time a check comes in, you're absolutely right. If they have payroll at the end of the week and an insurance company is offering, a significantly reduced offer on an invoice, but they need to meet payroll, they might be obligated to take it. So that happens all the time, right? But we can't really tell them what to do with the money. But we do expect, and for the most part, I would say almost always, those contractors, maybe they've incurred debt. So they use that money to pay off the debt, to pay some of these toxic loans that they're getting. And then, maybe take some gratification because they have been deprived of their own paycheck for half a year or something like that, right? To keep the business afloat. People don't understand a lot of times that all of us as entrepreneurs, we are beholden to our employees and to our burn rate or overhead, right? So we have to pay everybody else before we take a dollar home. And contractors are victim, are subject to that. Let's not call them victims, but they're subject to that. So we find that for the most part, like I said, they will reinvest the money back in, and invariably these are entrepreneurs, right? These people love their business, they love what they're doing, they would love to do more of it, and with our money they can. And they, I would say that 90% of our clients double their business within a year, if not triple it.
What would you identify as the biggest problem with the cash management for the contractor? Is it not charging enough money? Is it big overhead? Is it a lack of understanding their own financials? Like, what gets them in a terrible position? Like, what factors you see as a top risk?
To me, none of the above. The one that you missed there, which is the common denominator, is that if you were selling widgets to Google, right? You're gonna have a term of time that you're gonna get paid by. So if you have to buy the widget for X, sell it to Google for Y, you know how long you can wait. Mm-hmm. The problem in this industry is that the widget is the work that the contractor does, like building a roof. So if they build the roof and they have no idea when they're going to get paid, and it can be months or years, anybody, the guy that sells widgets to Google would go broke if they didn't know when Google was going to pay that invoice. So it's nothing wrong that the contractor's doing. They're still in the business because they believe in it. They know they're doing a service. It's your typical American dream kind of job, blue collar. You're making good money. You're out in the open. Those are not guys that want to be in an office. They're in their perfect landscape for themselves. So they want to continue in the business, and this is why they insist and they continue to stay in the business. But we can't forget that the insurance companies are the ones that are slowing them down or completely preventing them from growing.
I want to thank Carlos for creating such a needy service. I mean, this is, if I could come up with one product that helps restoration industry, that would be the one to help, because it's the biggest problem. It's the cash management. Comment below, guys, if you have any questions how ClaimPay work. Carlos, his team will be monitoring comments to this video. So if you don't understand, if you want to enroll, if you want to sign up, if you have more questions, comment away. Give it a like. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Thank you.
Awesome.